Mehdi Hasan had a Trump surrogate on his show, and I wanted to show this because I think this right here is the pinnacle of a phenomenon we've been seeing much more of, which is Trump surrogates, Trump supporters, people in Trump world living in a completely separate world, in Trump world, when talking to the press and when talking to people outside of it. And it creates such a clash with reality where they contradict themselves, where they just cannot accept basic facts, because if they do, those basic facts will become problematic. It's one thing to be made to acknowledge by the press that your president did something wrong or your president lost an election and then still go and support the guy while having to acknowledge that embarrassing reality. It's another thing entirely to just not acknowledge that reality and live in cuckoo land. And a lot of people have chosen to do that. But then you take people who are more aggressive journalists who will pin them down, who won't let them dance around. It can show you a pathetic, flip-flopping fish cycle for an hour and a half in some situations. And while you won't get a lot of useful information out of it when it comes to, informing the audience about an issue, it can show the audience clearly that you're not a man of substance on it. You're an acolyte. You're an acolyte there to praise the Lord's world and live in his world however he seems to want to view it. Let's watch this Mehdi Hasan interview. Maybe through watching it, you'll understand what I mean.
To think Trump was unfit for office. You called him absurd, you called him unserious.
Just like Vice President Vance and others.
Have bent the knee.
No, I'm not bent the knee. Have come to see the record and have come to see the man.
Trump lied, Adolfo, in order to demonize immigrants like you and me.
Let me tell you something. No, he's not talking about you and me.
Trump branded himself as the person who would, quote, drain the swamp in D.C. Rather than draining the swamp, he is filling it with alligators, is he not?
He's listening to his friends. Some of them will happen to be lobbyists.
You're confronted with a Trump statement. You try and find a way to spin it, reinterpret it. Because the facts are clear. He lied.
It's when I take statements that President Biden or others have said, you said, well, I don't care
He's gone
about
in 2 weeks.
He's gone.
Joe Biden lies. He lies about Gaza. He lies about lots of things. We agree. We're talking about Trump's lie now. Is it President Musk and Vice President Trump?
All these loaded questions.
Trump is. I just gave you a blunt quote.
You're unfiltered.
On Monday, the United States Congress certified the 2024 presidential election results and Donald Trump's victory over Kamala Harris. The process was peaceful, smooth, and, well, a very different picture to what we saw 4 years ago, when Donald Trump incited a full-blown insurrection, inspiring a mob of his armed supporters to storm the Capitol, after he and his cronies had spent months peddling lies about a rigged election and fraudulent votes following his loss to Joe Biden. But when it comes to the results of the 2024 election, Trump has had seemingly no complaints about that rampant voter fraud he claims we saw in 2020. No, instead, Trump was more than happy to watch Kamala Harris certify the Electoral College results, something his supporters almost killed Vice President Mike Pence for doing 4 years ago. And now, with less than 2 weeks until his inauguration, Trump is already setting the scene for a term bound to be even more hypocritical and reckless than the first. Not only has he nominated wrestling executives and anti-vaxxers to his administration, but he's also got billionaire Elon Musk setting his agenda, with Musk seemingly having convinced Trump to do a U-turn on legal immigration and even risk an entire government shutdown. Now, I've met a lot of people who will go to bat for Trump, but joining me now is perhaps one of his fiercest defenders, Adolfo Franco, who I debated on Al Jazeera's head-to-head just a few months ago.
Oh my gosh, I remember that. That was actually really good.
Months ago, Adolfo is a longtime Republican strategist who even worked for the late John McCain, but was most recently an official spokesperson for the Trump 2024 presidential campaign. Adolfo Franco, thank you for joining me on Mehdi.
Thank you, Mehdi. It's great to be back.
Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
The New Year started politically Monday, January the 6th, this week. Congress did its constitutional duty. Vice President Kamala Harris did her duty and certified the Electoral College victory for your man, Donald Trump. 4 years ago, then President Trump insisted the election was rigged, urged his followers, many of whom were armed, to go to the Capitol and fight like hell, which they did, injuring over 100 police officers, causing multiple deaths that day. Why didn't he do that again this year? Is it because he lost in 2020 and he won in 2024?
Well, yes. The answer is yes. I think President Trump feels very, very strongly that the 2020 election was indeed irregular at a minimum.
Because he lost. But when he wins, it's not irregular.
No, I think it's a very different. I don't think anyone on any side believed this year, Mehdi, that the election was close or they were contested. This was a very close election in 2020. There were irregularities, even Democrats' irregularities. But of course, you're not going to say when you have 312 electoral votes that you've won, that the election, that you haven't won the election.
Well, Biden, I think, had 307, so but they're both pretty similar. And he actually had a bigger popular vote margin. I mean, Adolfo, you want us to believe that when Donald Trump was the sitting president of the United States, controlled the DOJ, controlled the armed forces, controlled the FBI, controlled the cybersecurity agency, the Democrats somehow, without any power, managed to rig the elections against him. But when the Democrats actually control the White House and the DOJ and the FBI and the quote-unquote deep state last year, they were unable to rig the elections to keep themselves in power. That makes no sense.
Well, it does make sense. Elections in this country are handled at the state and local level. They're not handled at the federal level.
Okay. So on the local level, they were just much more vigilant this time, whereas last time, when they held all the power over the institutions, they were less vigilant, even though Trump said that they were going to rig it in advance then, too. So he should have had knowledge to be vigilant.
It's the elections in Georgia and Pennsylvania, the irregularities.
Well, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin all have Democratic governors. Well, so why didn't they rig it this way?
Look how easy it would be. Look how easy this conversation would be. Like, yeah, we lost that one, but we won this one because the American people, we convinced them after 4 disastrous years of Bidenomics. You could say something like that if you just could accept the bare bones reality. But because he cannot accept the bare bones reality that, Trump just lost an election once, after having a scandal-filled administration, after a very close election to begin with, and disastrous midterms. I mean, is that crazy to believe? And if you accept that, then it's much easier to just move on and just move on to the next election. So many other campaigns have done that before, but he is just too stubborn, and he wants to lay the foundation to do it again if need be, Donald Trump, at least in my mind.
Are local, such as in jurisdictions like Philadelphia or Atlanta, in these areas. These are not federal areas. These are areas controlled. There's a long history of our country, whether you like it or not, called Democratic Party machines. There were dailies in Chicago.
Yes, and the Democrats now run the White House, but they couldn't keep themselves in office.
No, it isn't strange, because it is local. These are local elections, and these were the local.
And they still control all those places locally. It's interesting you should mention Philadelphia. On Election Day last November, Donald Trump,
can I answer the question?
Yeah, please.
The president said it. Too big to be rigged. Well, I don't disagree.
Well, it was a narrower victory.
What does that matter? What do you mean too big? I mean, if it's too big to rig, doesn't that mean that our election system is too wide and too spanning over too many states that it's very difficult to rig an election one way or the other, let alone do it without being called? Wouldn't that be the implication from it?
Than Joe Biden. It was a narrower victory than Joe Biden.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree when the election is very, very large. And
this was a very close election.
No, it was not.
He won by one of the smallest popular votes in American history.
Yes, but when you distributed, there wasn't 10,000 votes difference.
In the 3 swing states,
in Wisconsin, it was much larger.
In the 3 swing states,
it was not a very dominant election. Like electoral votes wise, it might have been it was over 300. But popular vote, I mean, he didn't have some popular vote over 50%. It was like a percentage point different. There's many elections where the vast majority of elections, candidates have won in more dominant fashion. This would actually be historically a close election. Even though in the moment, since Trump has never won the popular vote before, it feels dominant.
It was over 50,000 in Pennsylvania alone.
The 3 swing states had 133,000 votes or something gone the other way for Harris. She'd have been president now.
Yes, but that's a larger margin than it was in 2020.
Let me just quote your man. On Election Day, you mentioned Philadelphia. On Election Day last November, Trump was talking about voter fraud on Election Day.
Yes.
And he was very specific too. He talked about there being, quote, massive cheating in the key swing state of Pennsylvania.
Then he won and he forgot about it immediately. Never mind, everything's great. What cheating? Never heard about it.
As soon as he won Pennsylvania and won the election, we didn't hear any more about massive cheating. What happened to it? Or is that...
Dude, it's God-tier level grift. I love it. I respect it on some level.
Droplet has donated $10. Love your work. Here's some money. Bye, smiley face.
Thank you. All the money that's donated to DylanBurns.TV is going towards a fund for me to pay for our cameraman in a few months, when we go back to Ukraine to film, all of the money goes towards independent, freelance war journalism and film projects. So you donate at DylanBurns.tv, just know it's going to pay that and our editor's fees. So thank you very much for supporting the channel.
The only voter fraud when Trump thinks about
DylanBurns.tv.
No, I don't believe that for a moment. I do believe, and Republican pollsters, even before President Trump, have said that the margin in many of these large Democratic cities, be they Baltimore, be they Philadelphia, that there is fraud. The answer again is too big to be rigged. There were rural votes. There was a margin that was larger.
So there was massive cheating in Pennsylvania.
There was cheating in Pennsylvania.
In 2024?
In 2024.
You just started the interview saying this was a fair election. No one disputed it.
I said it was too big to be rigged.
You said that later.
No.
Well, let me ask you this question.
No, I said it was too big to be.
Let me ask you this question.
By the way, President Trump also used those words.
So you've now said, everyone heard you say that you think there was cheating in Pennsylvania, even though Trump won.
I think there's fraud and irregularities in every election.
If, on that basis, if Vice President Kamala Harris on Monday had said that she had heard there was massive cheating from Adolfo Franco and Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, and she rejected the Trump state of election.
She was too cowardly to do what must be done. Install Secretariat Hunter Biden to enforce martial law as Emperor Biden gets his forever term.
From Pennsylvania. Would you have been okay with that? Would you have supported her power to do that? And maybe declare herself president on Monday? You would have supported that?
I'll tell you the answer to that is two things. Democrats have done that in 2020.
That's not what I asked.
They've
never done that. Al Gore lost in 2000. Many would say he won, but handed over power without an insurrection.
It's not his to hand over.
Kamala Harris, according to Donald Trump's theory, the vice president gets to decide. So could Kamala Harris on Monday have declared herself president on the basis of massive cheating in Pennsylvania?
She could have declared herself anything.
You would have supported that?
No, I wouldn't have, because I don't think the margins were close enough to justify a contestant.
But that's not what. That's not what Donald Trump said at the time.
Before you go
Adolfo, you can't keep going about margins.
And 2000 and 2004 and 2016, Democratic members of Congress contested the results of the elections when Republicans won.
They didn't try and overturn the election result, nor did the candidate. Hillary Clinton did not, Al Gore did not.
I am talking about members of Congress who actually vote for certification. And they're not the candidates.
So let me ask, I'm asking about the VP only. The vice president has the power to reject fraudulently chosen electors. That's what Donald Trump said on January the 5th. He didn't add your little caveat of how big or small the result. He said the vice president has the power. Now, I don't agree with him. You do. So I'm asking, if Kamala Harris had said on Monday, Adolfo Franco and Donald Trump said there were massive cheating in Pennsylvania, I reject the electors from Pennsylvania. You support her power to do that?
I think she would have had...
By the way, the argument would be, okay, so there's some Congress people who don't want to accept the results of the election because they're so angry Republican won. Don't normalize that behavior. The argument should not be, well, they did that, so that means when the president of the United States completely says, I will not lose, keep me president, and he, just stands back as his supporters riot and try to, stop the certification of the vote. There's no comparison than a few members of Congress saying, I don't want to accept that we lost, and resisting to the last moment to either play to their base or et cetera, whatever it is. The reaction to that should be, from a principled position, is, yeah, it's people performing for their supporters for either donations or to elicit a bump in their district, and it's not a principled Democratic stance. In 2000, it might be slightly different depending upon circumstances, but all in all, it's not something that's a principled Democratic thing to do. That's not to say that there shouldn't be any questions after any election, but that you could make that stance. That's an easy stance to just take. The Democrat taking them and say, this isn't comparable, but even if it was, the principled stance would be both as bad, not normalizing the behavior. And it's normalizing a totally different level of behavior, but what's the argument here? We want to take those fringe people who didn't get their way and normalize it, make it mainstream, and make the candidate itself champion it. That doesn't seem like a good argument to me.
The basis to do that had the election been closer.
No, that's not the criteria.
Well,
the criteria, according to John Eastman, Trump's lawyer, was that the vice president is the ultimate arbiter. That's what he said. He didn't say anything about margins. So basically, it comes down to the fact...
Of course, our law has been changed in that regard.
Thankfully, because your guy tried to overturn an election. Because your guy launched an insurrection.
But with the vice president's
power... Isn't that wild?
The
vice president, the person chosen by the president, is the ultimate arbiter? That doesn't make much... Definitely when the president has a direct bias if he's participating in that election. it doesn't seem like a very smart system that Eastman was proposing that is the way that it actually goes here and should be managed, to allow Donald Trump the ability to send it back down to the states through Mike Pence, which Mike Pence wouldn't do because he understood it was not his constitutional purview. Now the law has been changed, as Mehdi said, because both Democrats and Republicans bipartisan agreed that Trump should have not had even the ability to do it, while also simultaneously kind of ignoring the fact that he did it in the first place publicly.
To change the law because of Donald Trump.
No, there was no law. We had to have clarity on the matter.
Because of your boss.
Well,
here's what's so interesting. It's not just Trump saying, oh, there's cheating, I win, there's no cheating. Suddenly, being okay with election results when you win is now a general Republican Party thing. In 2020, only 21% of voters, Trump voters, said that the election was run fairly. But this time around, after their candidate won, the number surged to 93%. How can democracy in America survive, Adolfo, when one party only accepts the result when they win? The other party accepts. Democrats consistently accept when they lose, except when they win.
But I have to reject that. Republicans do not simply say because we
I literally gave you the stats.
Yes,
21% in 2020,
because
93%.
Because the margins here were such that that was not contestable. But we lost.
Of course it is. Democrats could have contested if they wanted to do the same way Trump did.
We lost very, very close Senate races, and we did not contest them in Wisconsin and Michigan and in Nevada. We did not contest those races.
You're telling me with a straight face, if Donald Trump had lost...
I have to tell you with a straight face.
Republicans were...
Biden's popular vote margin was much larger in 2020. Trump still contested it.
Have accepted the result.
The statement to say,
come on,
Mehdi, the statement saying that Republicans always reject elections when they
I didn't say always. I said in 2020 they didn't. In 2024 they did. Nothing changed between those two elections.
I think there were a lot of...
Only difference is Trump won.
The difference is there were serious irregularities in a very, very close race.
You just said there were irregularities in 2024.
But the margin is too long. Do I think the irregularities in 2024...
Actually, the margin was very narrow in all these states.
It was not a narrow margin.
What was the margin in Pennsylvania?
The margin in Pennsylvania was 50,000 votes.
You think that's a big win? That's not
out
of 200 million Americans. That is a tiny number.
No, but there are not 200 million Americans living in Pennsylvania. That is a wide margin.
Well,
and that is why we won the election.
What was the margin in 2016 in Michigan when Trump won?
The margin in Michigan in 2016 was 10,000.
Yeah, so why did Hillary contest that?
Because...
There's no consistency to your argument.
Oh, there is a consistency. You know what?
Did you accept that Hillary should contest?
In 2019, what did Hillary say? The election was stolen from me.
Did she contest it? I don't care what she said.
I don't know why she didn't contest it.
So you would have supported her right to do it?
No. She would have had...
Every viewer watching saw you say, if the margin is narrow, you get to contest it.
She can contest anything.
But only Republicans get to contest it.
No, she can contest anything she wishes to contest.
There's a lot of inconsistency with the Republican Party.
A lot of inconsistency when Democrats now say the election was stolen in 2016 and he's
They don't say it was stolen. But
really?
Okay.
Really? Well, look up.
I must have missed
your researchers did a better job in 2019.
Was there an insurrection on January 17th?
There was no insurrection in 2020. There was no insurrection.
That's not what Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy said.
No, there was a riot, there was a mob, and certain people should be held accountable.
The Senate Republican leader called it an insurrection.
Well, I don't call it an insurrection.
They stormed the Capitol in the attempt to stop the certification of the vote and keep Trump president. What would you call that? Like, you can call it, but that was an attempt. There was planning towards that goal. Calling it an insurrection is not some crazy, like, how dare you call it insurrection? Like, if you don't want to call it that for whatever niche, like, definitional reason, fine. But don't pretend it's silly when somebody calls it an insurrection when they were trying to insurrect the transitional system here where you go from one administration to the other because they didn't like the results of an election. That's what happened. After the president pumped them full of lies about the election. That's what happened. Just want to call it a riot so you can, like, equalize it with, like, for example, police violence case in a state, rioting in a local community. See, this is all like the same. Both sides do it. That's the point. Even though one was directly kind of just watched and allowed to happen and utilized by the sitting president of the United States. Which is what Trump did for 3 hours as his team called people on the Hill trying to get it to still throw it down to the states as the building was being stormed.
I don't care what you call it. I'm just telling you the leader of your party, one of the leaders of your party said it was.
Well, but he can speak for himself.
No, he speaks for your party.
No, he does not.
That's the definition of a leader.
No, he does not speak for. He is the leader of the Senate. He is not the leader of the Republican Party.
I said he's a leader.
A leader in the party, but he does not speak for all Republicans.
But he's a leader. He's not a random guy on the street.
He's a Senate Republican leader.
All right.
He's not a national leader. Nobody elected. Let me clear to your viewers. Nobody elected Mitch McConnell except the people of Connecticut. Okay. No one else did.
I assume he meant Kentucky. Mitch McConnell is not, he's not the senator from Connecticut. That'd be incredible political worksmanship by him if he was able to pull that off, but he is not.
Kentucky. Let's talk about inconsistencies in the Republican Party, apart from accepting results that they win and disputing the ones they lose. During his well, it's just literally what we saw. During his first presidential campaign, Trump branded himself as the person who would, quote, drain the swamp in D.C., who would get rid of White House and government corruption, hilariously. This past election cycle, he even said, quote, you have to stop listening to lobbyists. And yet, since being elected, Trump has tapped a number of long-time lobbyists and put them in key positions in the White House, his cabinet, his administration. Rather than draining the swamp, he is filling it with alligators, is he not? And completely betraying his working class base in the process.
No, he's appointing...
This is more than a fair question to ask, considering the people he's appointing. People unexperienced, people whose only qualification is loyalty, like Matt Gaetz, or Kash Patel, or Pete Hegseth, or RFK... people, he would even say who has negative qualifications. RFK has negative qualifications. And not even to talk about all the people who are involved in the big businesses who are now going to be the ones managing and regulating big business from a governmental standpoint. When, of course, there is a subversive, adverse interest there that means they should not be the ones doing the regulating. But this is how he managed labor relations when he managed the Labor Relations Board, having somebody who did not really care much to support labor in the position, somebody who didn't really believe in the position to begin with, to manage it. And that's what you do when you don't believe that somebody should be regulated in the first place. You appoint somebody to head an organization that doesn't believe in the regulations. And that is what Trump is going to do for large swaths of regulatory apparatuses across the country that helps with all sorts of things to keep Americans safe. That's not going to be that surprising. Because, I mean, this is what he did last time, and this is what he's certainly going to do again this time, especially since he's had more time to prepare to actually win. That means they had time to pick the reward picks, I guess you could call them. Reward picks? I don't know if you call them reward picks. To pick the back-scratching picks.
Loyalists, and that's the big difference. What people are in the past, when he came in 2016, I remember when he came in vividly in 2017, is he was dependent and because he was new to Washington, D.C., on the establishment class. That's what he's referring to, a lobbyist. There are people that are lobbyists and so forth that are complete loyalists that he did not bring in 2016. So people who he has now become acquainted with over the last 8 years or has even prior to that.
So it doesn't matter if they're lobbyists if he likes them?
I don't think he likes them. They're loyal to his agenda.
But that's not what he said to the country. He said our country has seen the sickness and corruption of the Washington swamp. So why put swamp monsters in your cabinet?
But they're not necessarily, everybody that's a lobbyist is not necessarily a swamp a person, not every single person.
So that's a circular argument, basically.
No, it isn't a circular argument.
I like he was going to say swamp monster, but he corrected himself to say person as if it's like, he was like, I don't want to slur the swamp people. I only want to use terms familiar with their culture. I think they also prefer, like, what is it? Maybe seaweed individual. A seaweed fellow, a frog fellow.
I'm looking at Pam Bondi, Trump's AG, long-time lobbyist for Amazon, a company Trump doesn't like, General Motors, Uber, the Qatari government, Duffy, who's a transport.
He
was a lobbyist for transport. You don't think that's corrupt?
And they're examples of people that are wedded to the MAGA agenda, to loyal to President Trump.
We don't know what agenda they're wedded to. Duffy is a long-time transportation lobbyist who's now the transportation secretary. How is that Trump draining the swamp?
And a close friend of President Trump, someone who knows President Trump.
Hold on. Your argument against corruption is to say he's appointing lobbyists who are his friends. That doesn't make it sound any better.
Well, it does make sense in this regard. They're loyal to an agenda he will implement. They're not loyal to a broader agenda of the Washington establishment.
Well,
Pam Bondi, who I know is an example of somebody who is extremely capable and completely loyal to President Trump.
So now you're just emptying words of all meaning. You can be a lobbyist, but as long as you're friends with Donald Trump...
He never said you cannot be a lobbyist and be in my administration.
He said you have to stop listening to lobbyists. He's listening to them. He's appointed to them.
Yes, he's listening to his friends. Some of them will happen to be lobbyists, but he's not listening to the lobby class in Washington, D.C.
Oh, the lobby class. Okay,
yes,
so Duffy and Bondi and Susie Wells. Let's talk about Susie Wells. During the campaign, Trump committed himself to one of the biggest goals in the Republican Party, a goal I assume you share, which is going after China, standing up to communist China, taking a stand, right?
TikTok.
Tougher than Joe Biden.
This is great. I remember he was like, we need to go after TikTok. The government needs to go after TikTok. It hasn't gone after TikTok. How dare they not do this? Immediately, a big financier of TikTok comes to a private meeting with him, comes out of it. Never mind. Never mind. Apparently, this China hawk flipped around on the issue overnight.
Biden on China.
Well, he has been.
And yet, he's made Susie Wiles, his campaign chair, the White House chief of staff, the most senior official inside the West Wing. And she was, until very recently, the co-chair of a firm that lobbied for Chinese companies in the heart of the White House.
Yes.
The Chinese government must be delighted.
No, because she is committed to President Trump and President Trump's agenda. Because, you know, this is the same thing as nominees as they prepare before the Senate is. President Trump sets the agenda. If Susie Wiles, which I know she is committed to President Trump,
it doesn't work like that.
Yes, it does.
As you know, the president,
oh, it does.
First of all, the average president gets influenced by people around him. Donald Trump is one of the most easily manipulated people I've ever seen. You don't
Why
think
do
she
you
can
say
push
that? I think it's the other way.
I've seen him. We'll come to that.
I think it's the other way around. Joe Biden, who's never fired anybody, is the most
Everyone who's worked with Trump knows that John Kelly used to say, last person in the room with influence, and that's why he blocked me.
Fired.
So you're telling me, I'm sure Susie...
Fired. Man, okay, so to be clear, the only people we can trust on Trump are the people that Trump trusts to talk about him publicly. So the people that usually depend upon him for his employment or want to stay in his good graces for political reasons or are getting paid by Trump or want positions by Trump or fear his condemnation. Those are the only people that we can trust on Trump.
Wiles will be fired soon, and
I don't believe that to be the case.
Let's make a bet, shall we?
Let's make a sportsman's bet. We made a bet on who won the election.
Sportsman, I never bet with you on that because I always worried that Trump would win. Remember, I was the one warning it against it. But let me ask you this: Susie Wiles is lobbying, was at a company that lobbied for Chinese companies. If Joe Biden had appointed as his chief of staff someone from a company that was lobbying for China, you'd have lost it. You and the Republican Party
I'm not sure I would have lost it. It's all over Washington, so prevalent that I would think it'd be business as usual. The difference is Susie Wiles is committed to the president's agenda.
It may be all over Washington, but I don't know the last time the president has appointed a chief of staff who was literally at a company lobbying for communist China, the country you claim to be so
But the question is, we will see how...
Here's the question. Do you think if Hunter Biden had this job, it wouldn't be the top story on Newsmax or OAN or the New York Post? Do you think it would not be something that would be talked about by, say, let me think of what, like, then of course, not only the Matt Walshes of the world, but also the people on the Hill. You don't think Lindsey Graham would talk? Of course they would. Of course they would talk about it. It'd be a big issue. It's just a different circumstance.
Well, comports herself now in the Trump administration. That's her past.
Well, we're already seeing Trump rolling over when he's influenced. He talked about banning TikTok long before Joe Biden did. He's now asked for the Supreme Court to suspend the TikTok ban until he takes office, which there's no precedent for, claiming that he will find a way to, quote, save the platform. And this comes just a few weeks after he met with the TikTok CEO at Mar-a-Lago.
Really sticking his neck out for
As a Republican, are you not concerned to see Trump cozying up?
And it's not like he's even slightly, like, leaning one way or the other. He's, like, hard sticking his neck out for TikTok, trying to, like, let's go around the constitutional process. Let's find a way to, like, he's, like, completely trying to go around the legislative process to try to save TikTok. Why is he so eager to save this Chinese company? Now, I'm not saying that he's corrupt for China. He might be corrupt for a businessman who also has happened to invest in a Chinese company. I don't think this is a principled free speech position. I don't believe the person who, wants to arrest flag burners, wants to loosen up the libel laws, and, I don't want to even get into the BDS stuff, but I don't think he's, like, principally so dedicated to it that he's now sticking his neck out over the issue. I think it's an American businessman convinced him behind closed doors, and now, after being convinced by that American businessman in order to curry his favor, as well as the favor of a bunch of other people, so he doesn't have to finance all of his own stuff, which he cannot do, he is going to at least show publicly putting in the most effort possible to save this company. So I don't think it's like China owns him. I think an American businessman convinced him through whether some financial offer or something else, I do not know.
to a Chinese company that many top Republicans have described as, quote, spyware and the largest malign influence operation ever.
And I'm
Look
concerned.
how easy it is to win Trump over.
I am concerned about TikTok, and so is the president. Let me tell you.
He's not.
No. Let me tell you, and mark my words on this. Speaking about coming back on the program, is the TikTok solution will be a solution where TikTok is eventually run by American firm and is divested of China. That is going to be what's going to be the solution.
That may happen, but right now it's not. Right now Trump is going to bat for a Chinese-owned company.
He's going to bat.
That's what he's doing.
He's going to bat for a platform that 170 million Americans like to use. I don't use it, like to use it, and want to use it. So therefore, he is going to bat for a solution for this.
It has nothing to do with his billionaire donors involved in TikTok.
It not has to do with that. It has absolutely nothing to do with that.
So we've seen Trump influence.
So Trump just really wants to make sure that TikTokers can continue to get their feed of content. I just don't buy it. I just truly do not believe it.
We've seen him appoint lobbyists. Let's just talk about other people he's appointed to his administration. Not just the number of lobbyists that's caused controversy. It's the number of men accused of sexual assault, rape, and other heinous crimes. He nominated Matt Gaetz for AG, a man investigated by the DOJ for sex trafficking, accused of sleeping with underage girls.
And what a pointless political weight to place upon yourselves for no gain.
Something he denies. He nominated Pete Hegseth.
And investigated for by the DOJ, might answer, and no charges.
And the Health Ethics Committee said they found substantial evidence.
But the Justice Department is the Justice Department, which has more resources than a House
higher
Ethics
bar
Committee.
As well, as we know. He nominated Pete Hegseth to be Defense Secretary. He's accused of sexual assault, something Hegseth denies.
These accusations,
and
these are accusations.
And he nominated Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to be Health Secretary, who was accused of sexual misconduct by a nanny, something he hasn't even denied. Does your party not give a damn about sex crimes anymore? I mean, Adolfo, this looks like the sexual assault administration led by a president.
Really, those are loaded propaganda words. Sex crimes. They've been convicted of some crimes.
Hold on. A propaganda word. Let me read out with it. Liable for sexual abuse to President of the United States, your boss. Yeah. So the head of the administration was found liable for sexual abuse, and he's appointed people accused of sex crimes.
Accused. Is accusation.
Is that okay?
Accusation.
In the old days,
I could accuse you of anything.
You're older than me. In the old days, do you think Ronald Reagan or George Bush Sr. would have got away with these kind of appointments?
The old days, in this regard. The new days. The new days are these. If any of these individuals had been convicted.
So that's the bar now. You have to be convicted.
You think an accusation...
So a health ethics... So what's the point of a House Ethics Committee's investigation?
An investigation that has not concluded and Mr. Gates never had
substantial evidence that former Republican Matt Gaetz had sex with a 17-year-old girl.
Did he have an opportunity to refute these charges?
So why appoint him AG when he hasn't done it? Why did Donald Trump nominate him?
But he was accused. He's never been convicted of anything.
So you're okay with that?
You glossed over a DOJ extensive investigation under a Democrat president of Mr. Gaetz that led to nothing.
So that makes him qualified to run the DOJ?
Makes him qualified to say that he never committed a crime.
You're saying someone... Hold on, I want to be very clear.
Look, it'd be one thing if Pete Hegseth was like the Henry Kissinger of the... He was like some... Like, and I don't like Henry Kissinger, I'm just saying, but he was some like big brain foreign policy starlet or something, I don't know, who also happened to have these accusations. Same thing with Matt Gaetz. Let's say Matt Gaetz was one of the biggest legal minds of the era who also happened to have these accusations. Now, that would not necessarily justify the nomination of either of these people, especially even if their big brain stuff was, you know, you could have legal theories that are big brain but still wrong, whatever. Point is, like, he could have these burdens and have experience or have these burdens, have a brilliant legal mind, but these are not brilliant defense minds, not brilliant legal minds, who also have these accusations against them, with Matt Gaetz having a lot of dirt piled upon it. Pete Hegseth, I haven't had enough time to dig into it, but it certainly isn't completely nothing. And so you're nominating unexperienced people, with one of which has certainly credible accusations against them. Why? Loyalty. Loyalty was certainly the case in Matt Gaetz's example, and I think Pete Hegseth, loyalty as well. I think loyalty is a big reason here. It's a big motivation here. Weren't we talking about the importance of meritocracy earlier and how much we hate it in DEI picks? Well, why don't we ever hear about this claim when it comes to picking, let's say, somebody with a bare minimum private practice and no further experience in government to be the top legal voice in the country? A vaccine denier a vaccine critic, and health crazy person, nutcase, Neanderthal, RFK to be a top health official in the country. Tulsi Gabbard, Bashar al-Assad, bunk buddy, to be the top intelligence official in the country. Fox News host, defense secretary. Like, where's this call for meritocracy in government picks, government positions?
You're saying if people are accused of something,
yes,
they should be
I mean, you're going from a 4-star general to a Fox News host. Like, that's a big jump.
Accusations.
Credible. What's credible?
The entire America runs on that basis, Adolfo. If somebody's credibly accused of it, they stand aside, they recuse themselves, they're suspended while investigations go on. You don't make them Attorney General of the United States of America.
No. For example, in the Senate of the United States, if you're indicted, you step aside temporarily from committee chairmanships.
That's a Senate rule.
Well,
wait.
But look how chilling your conclusion is. An accusation, credible, that's a subjective term, credible by one side.
The House Ethics Committee is not a credible group?
Yeah, that's just one side of
a tabloid newspaper.
That's a side story. Who you haven't heard. What's one side?
How about RFK Jr. at Health?
You have heard.
How about RFK Jr. at Health?
What about him?
He was asked specifically about the nanny accusing him of groping her. He said, he said, I have skeletons in my closet.
Speaking of nannies, I don't know. The first gentleman, I think.
Great distraction.
Oh, really?
Who cares? What job is the first gentleman?
Get
Get this. He actually agreed.
Do your watermelons, but I'll just ask the question again.
He actually said he actually was engaged in it.
I don't care. I'm asking about the health secretary.
Joe Biden has been accused of inappropriately touching women.
And he denies it.
RFK Jr. But that didn't. In his
RFK
case,
Jr. hasn't denied it.
Well, yeah, but let's also talk about that's from Tara Reid, who is its own case. My goodness.
He has not denied it.
So why is Trump nominating him to the Health Secretary?
He has not been convicted of anything.
So that's your bar. You can be the highest, most official in the country unless you're convicted of a crime.
I don't think you can be other than that, be the standard. Just an accuser. Yes.
Just an accuser. Is that because Donald Trump was accused by over 24 women of sexual harassment?
No, it's not because of that.
Is that why you guys, Republicans,
I have never lowered the bar on that.
hold on. Let me ask you a question. I don't have the fact checks in front of me. I'm going to take your word for this right now, Adolfo.
All right.
Maybe I'll Google it later. I'm going to ask you a question. Did you support the impeachment of Bill Clinton?
No, I did not.
You didn't?
I did not support
you
the
didn't
bill.
think the Monica Lewinsky issue? Because your party were obsessed with it, and he wasn't convicted of a crime.
I tell you why.
Last time I checked, Republicans cared about character and credible accusations at the time.
Do you know why the only basis about Bill Clinton, you can Google this later, is he committed perjury. Okay, he lied. He admitted later that he lied under oath. Under oath.
Well, thank God he's supporting Donald Trump. Trump would. If we know Trump to do anything, it's to always tell the truth. He wouldn't lie under oath.
He lied.
That's why he avoids talking under oath.
That is different. That is perjury. However,
you and I both know Republicans went after him over the affair.
The cheapening of the impeachment process, which we began with President Clinton, was a colossal mistake and has led to these disastrous political impeachment.
And now you have this new bar where accusations don't matter, only convictions do.
Don't you believe in the right to defend yourself?
I believe there's a criminal process, but I also believe politics.
What if I accused you of something? You lost this position.
Politics. That happens every day in corporate America, Adolfo.
I would hope an accusation, unless you would resign on yourself.
I think 24 women accused Donald Trump of something. I trust 24 women over one guy.
Oh, really? A lot of publicity.
24 women are all lying.
Yeah. I think.
Well, the jury in New York disagreed with you.
Jury in a kangaroo court. Yes.
Okay. Convenient when you lose elections.
Kangaroo court. My goodness, it's New York. I don't even care about the sentencing. Listen to the level we're at. Somebody's accused in Tennessee. Imagine I did this. Somebody accused in Tennessee of being a peeping Tom, runs for office. I bring it up. I bring it up like, I don't like that peeping Tom runs for office. Of course you're gonna, say that against somebody in a red state. Wait, let me think of the best example would be somebody is in a red state. Let's say Tennessee, Kentucky, whatever. They go be a peeping Tom. They go and run for office. I come out and I'm like, hey, he has these convictions of being a peeping Tom. And someone's like, oh, well, of course he's going to have these convictions of being a peeping Tom. He's in a red state. It's a kangaroo court. And I'm like, no, I don't believe that. No, it's a kangaroo court. Like, whatever. There's no thought to this. It's completely just New York, who cares? Kangaroo court. And then slogan after slogan after slogan after slogan. And just hand wave, hand wave. I really cannot find an original thought in anything this man has thrown out there. It's either slogans or hand waving for the entire conversation.
When you use court cases, they don't count.
Manhattan, 96% Democrat.
You and I have
a kangaroo judge.
You and I have everything's kangaroo. You and I have discussed before. Okay, well, let's talk about not Manhattan and not judges who are Democrats. Let's talk about Republicans. You and I have discussed before that you used to think Trump was unfit for office. You called him absurd. You called him unserious back in 2016, and then you had a come to Jesus moment.
No, I'm just like the vice president and Nikki.
Well, let's go through the list. His new cabinet is filled. I don't think I've ever seen a cabinet of any leader in any country filled with people who have attacked him in ways that even I've never attacked Donald Trump. His vice president called him America's Hitler. His secretary of state called him a con artist. His director of national intelligence called him Saudi Arabia's bitch. And his health secretary said he scammed American workers.
And what did they
With
do
friends like that, who needs enemies?
And when did they say these things?
Bitch, my goodness.
You tell me.
Yeah, okay. As before we knew Donald Trump's record and Donald Trump's capacity.
Actually, they knew his record. That's why they said he scammed American workers. It was based on his role as CEO.
You asked me my comments. My comments were being made when I was supporting Senator
What about
Rubio.
all his colleagues? What about his new appointees?
And his appointees.
His own cabinet thinks he's
like
Saudi Arabia's bitch, a con man, and Hitler.
And you know what? Just like Vice
Hitler's
President Vance and others have come to just the president
bent the knee.
No, I'm not bent the knee. Have come to see the record and have come to see the man. And you know what? We were wrong.
Well, Tulsi Gabbard said that about his record. She was specifically referring to his foreign policy at the time, saying you're behaving like Saudi Arabia's
and she was a Democrat.
I mean, like, why did Donald Trump's son, his son-in-law, get $2 billion sent over to his investment fund from the Saudi Investment Board after the board said, I don't want to do this, and then the Crown Prince gets involved, overrules them to get him that money? Like, we have questions about this. Open questions about this. Why was Saudi Arabia his first trip overseas? Why? What facilitated that? What necessitated that being his first trip overseas, being to Saudi Arabia?
Democrat at the time, when she was
so we can't trust any
she was a Democrat at the time, and this was political in that sense. But these individuals, as myself and other Republicans,
you all just fell into line.
No, we fell into line.
He did a hostile takeover of your party, and you went from John McCain to Donald Trump.
We saw the record of accomplishment, as did the American people. How many presidents have come back after one term?
Just sticking with his appointments and nominations so far, why did he say he had no idea about Project 2025? He called Project 2025 ridiculous and abysmal, and now he's appointed about 10 different people from Project 2025 to his administration. He lied, didn't he?
No, because what you're mixing up something here.
Stephen Miller, Brendan Carr, Russell Vought. Should I go through the list? All Project 2025 contributors authors. They're now in the administration,
You're mixing up like Project 2025 is an entity. It's a project within the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
He's appointing Heritage Foundation people. By law, the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025 could not cooperate with the campaign. By law.
But he acted like he had nothing to do with it. He didn't know who's involved in it.
He said he never
Clearly
read
he knew
it.
them. No, he said he doesn't know who's involved in it. And yet he appointed the people.
I don't think he knew who was involved in drafting up the project.
But they all suddenly got top jobs.
No, but wait, they're all Heritage Foundation individuals.
Not to mention the fact that if you go and you look at who made Project 2025, like, you could say, like, okay, Project 2025 itself was not endorsed by the campaign, but if all these ideas that most Americans didn't like, which is why they distanced themselves, not all of the ideas, but majority of them, a lot of them, you're like, okay, I don't like that, but then you take all the people who came up with those shitty ideas and you put them in government anyway. It's not like all those people just changed who they are overnight, or all the ideas they believed in or helped, throw at the wall and think about and propose. It's the same people.
Against her, and many aspects of
a presidency is not just one man in an office; it's an entire administration.
Have you read Project 2025?
Yes, I have.
It's 1,000 pages,
yes,
right?
I have.
Okay.
And I did a summary of it.
Many of those aspects of that program, President Trump supports, I support.
It didn't sound like that during the campaign.
But here's the difference.
He didn't say that during the campaign.
He
didn't say that during the campaign, Adolfo.
There's a legal barrier.
There's no legal barrier to saying whether he agrees with the report or not. And he made it very clear he doesn't agree with it, although now he's appointed all the others. So my bigger question, Adolfo, is why does he lie so much? Not just about Project 2025, about everything. For example, let me give you an example. As you know, on January the 1st, Tragically, over a dozen people were killed in New Orleans as a man drove a truck carrying an ISIS flag allegedly into a crowd full of people celebrating New Year's. A horrific incident is now being investigated as an act of terrorism. Donald Trump, the president-elect, immediately took to social media and blamed the attack on Biden's, quote, open borders policy. He wrote, and I quote, "When I said that criminals coming in are far worse than criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true." No, it didn't. That's not true. That's a lie. The driver was a U.S. native born and raised in Beaumont, Texas. Trump lied, Adolfo, in order to demonize immigrants like you and me.
Let me tell you something. No, he's not talking about you and me. He's talking about people who pose a threat to the country. What had been reported initially, which I know Fox News retracted after 7 minutes, had been that the truck and some of these assets had come in from Mexico. So the president, I think, responded to that. The broader point
he responded falsely.
Well, no, he responded with the fragmented information. That
why can't that's just say it was false? Just say it was false. He said it was not from the country. He was from the country. It's false. But it says no, he was responding with fragmented information. It can be false and just an accident. It can be false and not an accident. It can be false in a million different types of false pieces of information from different angles. But it's false. This is the thing that baffles me. He needs to live in this alternative world where nothing Trump says, one of the most prolific liars in the history of American liardom. And he can't even pretend he lied or was just not even lied, but was non-maliciously false about something. After the ridiculousness of things like Sharpiegate. Is an impossible position to hold unless you had to dedicate yourself, blood and all, to this man. And that's what this guy has done as a Trump surrogate. That's what he's done. And that's why he can't just say, yeah, that was false. But, you know, he did it out of trying to bring attention to it. He could try to still pitch it in a different way. He can't even acknowledge the basic fact. Acknowledgement of the basic truth would be not being a proper acolyte.
Made available by the press at that time.
That's not what he said. He made a very definitive statement.
And if you ever tap on the echo chamber and allow it to crack even slightly, it might all shatter and rain upon you. And you don't want that. And so he cannot tap it.
That's not how a president or a leader behaves.
But let me
at a sensitive time. Something inflammatory.
And the FBI initially, leaders, including the President Biden, said it wasn't a terrorist attack initially. Are they acting?
He lied about it being immigrant. Has he apologized for that?
No, but
has he corrected the record?
Yes, he corrected the record when he's spoken about the broader point.
He immediately lies and makes it about immigration.
No, it's not a lie.
It was an American born and raised.
It does not. It is American born and raised.
So you got it wrong.
It is terrorist or inspired by ISIS. There's no question about that.
That's not what he said,
but again, the information that came out initially, Mehdi, was fragmented.
He jumped, but then he didn't need to jump on it.
But let me tell you, the broader point he jumped
Biden
to
didn't say
remains...
it. Mitch McConnell didn't say it. Only Trump said it.
Remains valid. The broader point remains valid.
You don't get to lie and then say broader point. That's not how lies work, Adolfo. He lied about New Year's.
No, he did not lie about it.
And we don't have an open border. Let me ask you this.
We do have an open...
He didn't lie. He didn't get it false. It just wasn't correct.
Border.
That's ridiculous. I just came into the United States last night. I can assure you, it wasn't an open border.
Did you come across the border in the Rio Grande?
And in the southern border, do you know how many people have lost their lives trying to cross the border? Why do people lose their lives if it's open?
The people lose their lives because they're crossing across the desert. It is open. There's not enough security on the... Are you trying to tell me the American people in November didn't make a decision based on...
I think the American people got it wrong in November, obviously.
Really?
Just like you think they got it wrong in 2020.
Well, the American people got it very right in November because they...
Did they get it right in 2020? Did they get it right in 2012? Did they get it right in 2008? Come on, don't give me this populist nonsense.
But that's not populist
I want to stick with the topic because we're going to run out of time.
Okay.
It's the pinnacle of politics nonsense to say the American people chose. You don't speak for the American people. The American people and the American people. They vote on a whole set of issues. You know what a lot of American people voted on? They didn't like the grocery prices. Trump's out on the campaign trail. Elect him, he'll bring them down, down, down. Now he's saying he can't. So, I mean, like, the American people voted on a whole lot of things.
Demonstrable lie Donald Trump has told in recent days. After Elon Musk, the shadow president, came out in favor of H-1B visas for foreign workers, and the MAGA base came out against it furiously, Donald Trump told the New York Post, and I quote, "I've always liked the H-1B visas. I've always been in favor of the visas."
Thanks for the rain, non-farm.
That's a lie, Adolfo. He said in 2016, in a presidential debate and across the campaign, that the H-1B visa program was, quote, very bad, unfair for US workers, and, quote, we should end it.
Yeah.
Why does he lie so much? When we
I don't
saw
think
him with our own eyes lie.
I don't think it's a lie. I think he's for the program, but it needs to be reformed. And it needs to be reformed. It can be manipulated. It's been a system that's been used many times to sue employers because of its use.
I understand the program.
You understand the program.
But these are your views.
Yeah.
Donald Trump did not say any of this.
Yes, he did.
I'm going to read it out again, just so you know. I've always liked the H1.
Hey, Chicken Bacon Swiss, thank you so much for the 5 gifted tier 1 subs. I appreciate that. Right after the non-fun raid, to Lord Navajo, D-Ral, Socialism is Not a Crime, Rowland Tigerfish, and Quill 1989. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted. That's the biggest sub donation of today's stream. Starting a level 2 hype train over there in Gutter Chat. Thank you all very much, very much. Thank you. Man, this whole conversation is unbelievably frustrating, but I think it demonstrates my alternative world hypothesis very, very, very well. It is just bizarre to watch happen in real time. Just acknowledge a basic fact and just build something on some sort of stable foundation that he just refuses. He refuses.
1B visas, I've always been in favor of the visas. Doesn't say anything about reform. Where in 2016, he didn't say anything about reform. He said, very bad, we should end it. He didn't say reform it, we should end it. Yeah. So he lied when he said he's always for it.
You're cherry picking in this.
I'm not cherry picking, those are the only quotes.
In this way.
Which quotes have I missed from him?
Because you're taking things out of context.
No,
I don't
this is a desperate Trump defense.
No, it is not.
Out of context. He's a toddler who you have to interpret.
No, it is not.
I'm reading his words.
It is exactly what he has said consistently. The program has major problems.
That's not what he said in 2016. I'm going to read it again to you. I'm going to read it one more time.
I think the
very bad, unfair, quote, we should end it. What does end mean, Adolfo?
And I think there's a...
End means reform.
If I recall, there's a sentence or two afterwards that we need to find better ways to bring people into the country legally. And that's what he's referring to.
He explicitly says we should end the H-1B visa program. 8 years later, he says, I've always liked it and been in favour. That's a lie. Anyone who understands English knows that's a lie.
But you know,
unless English is your second language, that's a lie.
Mehdi, the program actually could be eliminated and replaced with a different program.
Fine, why didn't he say that last week? Why did he say, quote, I've always liked... I'm going to read the quote again to you because you don't like his words, I know.
No, but
I've always
taking
liked...
them out of context.
There's no context. This is a statement to the Post. Take it up with the New York...
Trump, just like many other businessmen, like HB1B visas, H1B visas, because it can provide them cheaper labor and a wider selection of a labor pool than if they didn't have that as an option, right? And, you know, that gives you immense influence over the person who comes over because they're there for work. They don't have the work, they don't have the visa, they get out of the country. So that gives you a lot of leverage and power as an employer. Liberals and others like it because they like the idea of not only, you know, more diversity in the United States, but also the economic capacity that it does offer the United States, which I do think is helpful. This is, like, Trump's policies towards immigration is, you know, cheap labor, beautiful. Politics based upon anti-immigrant rhetoric that is beneficial to me, even more beautiful. So when it comes down to, like, H-1B visas, I don't think he cares about that. I think the one issue he's going to try to really fight on is specifically control of the border. But, like, that is not the end-all be-one. Visas or visa overstays is a huge percentage of undocumented immigration, or illegal immigration, or making up a large percent of illegal immigrants in the United States. And so, unless there's structural reform there, or tons of human manpower dedicated to going and basically hunting these people down, it's going to be very difficult for you to, like, really reform the system from head to toe. And so, I think when it comes to the visa stuff, they're going to be a lot more lenient. Especially since Trump has shown, you know, from being a businessman, he benefits from those low wages too.
Post. I've always liked the H-1B visas. I've always been in favour of the visas. That is not true. He was not in favour of the visas in 2016.
I believe he has always, and I know this...
What you believe is irrelevant, Adolfo, with respect. It's what he said.
Says, by the way, what I'm saying right now is not saying that he's always had this position. I'm just saying it's really easy for him to rationalize now supporting the H-1B visas as a change because of these reasons.
But this is what you always do. You come on and you say, well, Trump, you're confronted with a Trump statement. You try and find a way to spin it, reinterpret it. Because Facts are clear. He lied.
It's when I take statements that President Biden or others have said.
I don't care about Joe Biden. He's gone in 2 weeks.
He's gone.
Joe Biden lies. He lies about Gaza. He lies about lots of things. We agree. What about Trump's lie now? He lied in 2016.
It isn't lies.
What is it then?
It's this. I think he has real problems with the program. The program might be eliminated, and the program will.
So why did he say that?
Why is it always? See what this is? It's always divert. It's always divert, 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 divert. Undermined. Okay, he's undermining, the legitimacy of whoever the opponent is. He's diverting immediately. Diverting as soon as the topic he doesn't even want to talk about it. He's like, you know what I think it is? And then he talks about something totally different. It's just a diversion. It's nothing but diversion. Either undermine the credibility of the person on the other side of the aisle and whatever the issue is, or it is diverting. It's one of the two.
He didn't say, I've got real problems. He said, I've always liked the visas. I've always been in favor of the visas.
That is not the only statement he made about immigration or visas.
That is the statement he made to New York Post about H-1B visas.
Not in isolation.
That is what he said. People can Google it. You're wrong.
You're right.
Okay, let's talk about Elon Musk, the guy who Trump's now bowing the knee to. He's dominating our political debate, Musk. Well, let's go through it.
All these loaded questions,
Trump, I just gave you a blunt quote.
You're unfiltered.
Trump plays golf at Mar-a-Lago. Elon Musk is basically running the country. He's leading on the immigration issue. Let me go through it. He's leading on the immigration issue. He's leading on the spending bill. He's having secret meetings with the Iranians, reportedly. He's called for the Prime Minister of our closest ally, the UK, to be deposed, removed from office. Is it President Musk and Vice President Trump?
No, it is not. That is just silly.
Is it silly? I just read out multiple examples. It
is silly. Anything that Elon Musk is doing in conjunction with President Trump's direction.
Wow. So Donald Trump wants the British Prime Minister removed. That's a big statement.
Donald Trump has made a lot of statements about foreign leaders.
Has he called for Keir Starmer to go?
He has not.
Because Elon Musk has. You just said they're coordinating.
They're coordinating in this regard, in the broader policy issues and agenda that they're going to bring forward through DOGE. There is no question that Elon Musk has his own personality. He does not have an appointed position in the government, as you know. But he is going to have specific tasks that are going to be given to him.
Including calling for the fall of the British government.
He has opinions that he might have. I don't think he's calling for the fall of the British government. He's literally
said that,
he's
Adolfo. You should spend some time on his horrible website.
I know what he's done.
He's literally said
he's not limited
that British leaders should be in prison and the government Parliament should be dissolved undemocratically. He's called for a coup. He's called for the king to dissolve Parliament. That's a coup.
He has called.
And by the way, he didn't just call for the king to dissolve Parliament. He called for the king to dissolve Parliament 13 times.
Other changes in other European countries as well.
Well, that doesn't make it good. Donald Trump seems to be bothered by the insinuation that Musk is the real president. He even went out of his way recently to say that Musk can't be president as he wasn't born here in the US. It's now being reported this week that he's complaining to people that Musk is around too much.
Oh, this is all just Washington gossip. It's ridiculous.
Trump said it on the record. He said he's always around.
He said he's always around.
And he can't be the president.
He said he's always here, can't get rid of him in Mar-a-Lago, jokingly. So you get to put that in jokingly.
Only a joke. We know that Trump is bothered.
Elon Musk is going to be a strong ally.
How long till they fall out?
They will not fall out. They will not fall out.
Can I book you right now to come back on the show?
They will not fall out. Dude, it's just like, dude, sign up for RT. They will not fall out. They'll never fall out. Trump didn't lose in 2020. Widespread. There was widespread fraud in Pennsylvania, but also he won and it was fair. But there was widespread fraud, but it was fair. Just like, come on, dude. There's not even like an attempt to really engage with the questions. Like at this point, just submit like 20 slogans. Why even come? Why not just here's my 5-minute spiel with all of the bullet points and just leave? Why stay for 40 minutes to even engage?
When Susie Wiles is fired and Elon Musk and Trump fall out.
Yes, yeah? and I'm going to come back when they're still in.
Okay, in 4 years, right? 4 years.
No one usually lasts 4 years.
A lot of Joe Biden's appointees did.
President Reagan shifted.
Well, Trump had the fastest turnover, we know that. Most people didn't last. Are we not living, Adolfo, are we not living in an oligarchy when the world's richest man gives over $200 million to help get Trump and Republicans nationwide elected, then gets rewarded with a government position in a totally made-up...
Are you talking about Mr. Soros?
Which government department did George Soros run?
Are you talking about Mr. Soros?
Adolfo, which government department did George Soros run?
I didn't run into the department.
So then your argument is ridiculous.
He ran it behind the scenes, pumping hundreds of millions of dollars to help Democrats.
Musk is running
setting up
a totally made-up government department where he can eliminate all his conflicts of interest. You know the U.S. government is investigating Tesla's bunch of investigations.
He doesn't have a government department.
He has a made-up department, indeed. How is that
Only
not
Congress
corruption?
can create departments.
Agreed. So how is that not corruption and oligarchy? That
it isn't corruption and oligarchy.
He just gets this reward to run things.
It isn't oligarchy.
I give you $200 million and I get a government job.
But people come in to government to advise through commissions or simple advisors or designated official functions of the president.
Differently.
He is doing a difference. He's bringing in an entrepreneur in the world.
He's a champion of the working class by having a billionaire give him money and then give him a job.
He's a champion of growing the economy and a champion of being able to...
That's not what I asked. Elon Musk gave $200 million or more,
and efficiency,
and he got a job.
Yeah.
How is that not corruption?
It's not corruption to come in somebody who doesn't need a job.
How do you champion somebody who's supposed to be the working class challenge to the establishment, not controlled, and then immediately say, like, oh, this guy... See, this is the problem. This is what the problem with Cenk Uygur. Cenk Uygur comes out and is like, hey, guys, look, maybe we can work with these guys on anti-corruption efforts. But they won't even agree on what the real issue with what corruption is. Whether it's going to be some made-up, like, fantasy deep state corruption or some semi-real deep state corruption. When it comes to, like, these companies or extremely wealthy individuals using their finance to tip the scale in one way at a disproportionate amount, that is not something that Donald Trump, somebody who did that himself and admitted to it on the campaign trail and bragged about it on the campaign trail in 2015, 2016, that is not something he is going to do. I'm sorry if that comes as a shock to the system, but I don't think it should.
Somebody who's going to come in.
He does need to get rid of. He does need to get rid of lots of government investigations.
No, what he needs to get rid of is government waste and abuse.
You don't think Elon Musk is going to get rid of all the investigations against his companies?
I don't believe that for 1 minute.
Were you born yesterday?
No, I don't believe it. I believe he's going to get rid of.
You've been in DC long enough to know exactly what's going to happen.
I think he's going to get rid of a great deal of the bureaucration and all the fraud, waste. And
so you don't think it's oligarchy that billionaires are just getting jobs in government? Okay, that's literally the definition of oligarchy, ruled by wealthy people. One last question. During this whole H-1B debate, Elon Musk publicly agreed with a post on Twitter, on X, calling Americans to, quote, forgive my use of this language, to fill up the Silicon Valley tech workforce. Do you agree with that view? Are Americans too to work in Silicon Valley?
No, I don't agree.
It's crazy. That's true.
With that view.
Why did he say that?
I don't agree with that view. I think there is a lot of talent.
Should Elon Musk apologize for that?
Well, I don't know. I can't tell Mr. Musk what he should apologize for.
Donald Trump apologize?
Come on, dude. Okay, he should have led with the mullah of Iran said it. Get a different reaction. Then ask him afterwards.
I don't think the President Trump has to apologize for Elon Musk.
One of his top appointees just insulted the MAGA base. He said they're rich.
He's talking about extremely sophisticated positions in government.
So in
industry.
So
when he was referring to the retards, he meant that in a more complicated way that you say so.
If Joe Biden had called Americans retarded, would you be okay with that?
No, he called Americans garbage.
But if he called them retarded, you'd be okay with that?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't be.
Look, I'm bipartisan. I think Americans are retarded garbage.
Agree with that.
Would you call for him to apologize?
And I wouldn't. I think he should apologize for calling the American people garbage.
Great. Okay, so then should Donald Trump apologize for his appointee?
The difference is President Biden used those words. Why should Donald Trump apologize for the words of someone else?
Because the guy he's appointed.
Well, was President Biden apologizing for things his cabinet and his officials said?
I know your only defense of Trump is whataboutism.
But
Biden's gone. I'm not a Biden defender. I'm here asking you about Trump.
You want to silo things like there's only one standard. There is one standard. There is a standard.
A top guy in your side called your base.
Yeah,
do you think that's bad?
And the President of the United States called the American people garbage.
So that two wrongs make a right.
Do you think that's bad?
Are we in elementary school? Do two wrongs make a right?
No. Do you think that's wrong?
Do you think two elementary schools are? Do you think two things wrongs are right?
One's the president. The incumbent president. No, President Biden called the American people garbage.
I'm not here to defend Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah, conveniently.
I'm not. I said Joe Biden's complicit in war crimes. Okay. So I'm not the guy you want to put as the Biden defender. I'm asking you, should Elon Musk apologize for saying...
I think he needs to apologize and also clarify the statement. And the statement...
There you go. At the very end, the tiny bit of spleen, a little bit of spine he has left, I guess pinched him a bit. And by accident, he showed it.
Clarification of how I regret saying those words. I do think there is a need for non-Americans to come into the country in certain jobs if they're the most qualified,
My
especially in
God.
such specialized fields as the Silicon Valley.
But Donald
Don't
Trump
you
shouldn't
long
have to
enough.
disown remarks.
I don't think he needs to apologize for Elon.
He never has to
No, but
apologize for
not
anything,
Trump.
according to Adolfo
Elon
Franco.
one thing,
I
but Trump's
shouldn't
another.
apologize for you.
I don't
You
think I've
shouldn't
ever seen
apologize
Donald
for
Trump
me.
apologize. Let's see what he has to apologize for from January the 20th. Adolfo Franco, we appreciate you taking time out.
Thank you, Mehdi.
You're going to be coming back. We talked
looking
about when
forward
you're
to it.
coming back. I
Yes.
appreciate you taking time out for
Thank you.
today.
Thank you.
Fun sparring partner, though. I imagine for Mehdi. Fun sparring partner. My God. But again, this is what I mean. Every single question, he could not accept the reality, and he had to divert away from it. Because accepting reality on reality terms is painful. Nothing hurts more than the truth, especially if accepting the truth would mean denying possible future political favors or, undermining your position in the Trumpian ladder. The Plutonian agenda will be stopped. Long live Mars. Long live Mars. Long live Mars.